Hello, and welcome to another episode of Adrienne Ross Squared, squaring off from A to Z. I'm glad you're with me today because I think this is an important episode as we prepare as a nation for the transfer of power, prayerfully the peaceful transfer of power, as President Joe Biden exits the White House and President-elect, as of right now, Donald Trump will once again enter the White House. Obviously, Trump was the 45th president. He's about to be the 47th president of the United States. And I want to talk a little bit about it. Now, I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan. Fan is a, weird word, but supporter of President Biden. Supporter to the extent that I want the best for America. But as far as his policies go, they didn't sit right with me. I didn't vote for him. I'm a conservative, and I don't agree with President Biden and how he sees the world, his worldview, his politics, his policies, etc. But he is the president of the United States, and I have great respect for the office. He's the leader of the free world, which is one of the reasons why I was vocal during his presidency about the cognitive issues that began to show up. And I felt bad for him, and I felt people were taking advantage of him, and I was vocal about that. So if you were a part of the Adrienne Ross show before I rebranded it, it was the Adrienne Ross show from A to Z. Adrienne is on it. And now, of course, it's been rebranded, and that's the main channel where I talk about the connection between sports and culture. But many of you were part of the Adrienne Ross show, whether it was on YouTube or whether it was on the podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, obviously on my Substack and my writing on Substack. You know exactly where I stand on some issues. You know exactly where I stand concerning President Biden's cognitive issues and how I thought he, the people who supposedly care about him should have stepped in long before. And then, of course, came the debate against President Trump, and then the jig was up, as they say. And then, obviously, he was replaced on the ticket by Vice President Kamala Harris. When President Obama was in office, I didn't support him either. I probably was more vocal about him and his policies than I was about President Biden. But when he exited office with obviously Biden as his VP, I had a column in the newspaper for many years, and I had a column at that time. And when it was time for them to depart, I wrote a column thanking them for their service, which I know there are people who will be like, how could you do that? I mean, you don't agree with them. They don't have conservative values. How do you do that? Well, I have high regard for the office. And so I wrote that. Well, now it's time for President Biden to depart the office. And I also wanted to express my thanks, not for everything he did, but the fact that he stood in that office and represented the country. Now, I wrote this article last night, Saturday night, for my on my Substack, which if you know anything about my Substack, there are various subscriptions. Some are paid, some are free. This was a paid article, which means it's other than an excerpt, and I think it was like 2 paragraphs of an excerpt. After that, the only way you could read the rest or listen to the rest, because I do the audio as well, would be to subscribe. And so this is paid content, but I'm going to do what I don't do. And that is I'm going to share the paid content with all of you as subscribers of this channel. Again, I don't usually do that because people pay for my writing, but I wanted to do that here. And I wanted you to have access to the whole thing because I wanted to give this goodbye, so to speak, to President Biden, because like I said, even if I don't agree with everything you've done or said, you're the president of the United States. So I'm going to share that with you. So I'm going to take you over to Substack right now and let you see and hear what I wrote last night. So here we are in my Substack. As you can see, if you don't know what it looks like, it houses my writing as well as the audio versions of my podcast. And it says the title is, you can see in there, the title is I Give Thanks as President Biden Exits the White House on Monday. So we're going to go into the article. Now, I don't have to read it because the audio is already here. And so I get to just hit play and then you get to just hear it. So it saves my voice just a little bit. So take a listen. I give thanks as President Biden exits the White House on Monday. I didn't support Barack Obama's candidacy and I did not vote for him. However, when his tenure as president ended, I dedicated my column in the newspaper to him and thanked him for his service. Well, I also did not support or vote for Joe Biden, but as his term concludes on Monday, I dedicate this article to him and give him thanks as well. It takes a whole lot of nerve, so to speak, to run for president. For real. President. I mean, it's the stuff children write about in their fourth grade essay entitled What I Want to Be When I Grow Up. Surely the number of students who write about being president is second only to those longing to don firefighter hats and boots. But for most people, it ends there. To carry the dream past childhood on up to adulthood is, well, nervy. Knowing that, even if I don't agree with someone's worldview or party platform, I feel a thank you and well wishes are in order. Most politicians aren't purposely trying to destroy the country. They just think their way of thinking is best for their agenda. Joe Biden and I certainly are not on the same page. But he did hold the office. And as I have respect for the office, I choose to acknowledge his service to the country before he moves on and President-elect Trump moves in. With Biden, it's different than with Obama, though. I don't think most people believed Biden was running the country. Most don't think he was capable of doing so for most, if not all, of his presidency. That's no cheap shot. That's what we have seen and heard, and what others close to him are now confessing they saw and heard, but did nothing about. I did several podcast episodes and articles calling out the elder abuse and stating that it wasn't right and needed to stop. To stay in power, some people will do anything. But after the debate against Trump, which surely had to be a setup, right? There was no more hiding and pretending. He eventually gave in to the calls to step aside, and Vice President Harris, not liked at all, according to polling, became the nominee without receiving a single vote. Even though Biden was a figurehead, and though we don't actually know who was doing the presidential things, although some would stake everything on that being Obama's third term, he was president, and for decades he was in government. Unlike John McCain, who went back to the Senate upon losing to Obama, Biden isn't going back to the only thing he's done all of his life. Even in the cognitive state he's in, that has to feel strange. He's been in the thick of government for so long. I thank him for trying to do what he must have thought was the right thing, although I'm glad he didn't get done what he tried to do most recently, retain his place as president. And I'm glad his VP didn't either. That doesn't mean I don't wish him well. I do. I pray, literally, for him to relax and to do things he enjoys and to seek God. The last part is most important. As Biden partakes in the peaceful transfer of power on Monday, I pray he has peace in his new life and knows that the country will always remember him for his years in the Senate, his time as vice president, and his term as commander in chief. God bless you, President Biden. So those were my thoughts. Wanted to share what was on my mind concerning this time we're in and also what's on my heart. And I thought, why say it all again, even though I said quite a bit, but I just figured I said it all in what I wrote and I get to share it with all of you. I am curious about what you think as we enter this new season. It's an exciting time in a way, right? It's like, I don't know, January 1st comes and everybody's like, Happy New Year. Well, we have an inauguration and it's like, Happy New Era of the country. Are you excited about what's coming? Are you one of those who, for some reason, is feeling nervous about what's coming? The comments are a great way to get in there and respectfully discuss some of these things, but I am looking forward to it. I I have great hope. My hope number one is in the Lord. My hope number one is in God. But I also have hope in the new administration that we're about to see enter the White House very shortly. And the things are different this year. The all the activities surrounding the inauguration, as it's going to be indoors this year, that hasn't happened since 1985 with President Reagan. But the weather is going to be extremely cold, and perhaps it's even better that way as far as safety. I, of course, have been and will be praying for President Trump, praying for his safety, not just his safety, but the safety of everyone involved, the safety of everyone who shows up. And I do want it to be a peaceful transfer of power. And of course, I am praying for President Biden as he steps into this new place. And as I said in the article, it's got to feel weird. It's got to feel like, man, I'm a fish out of water, because this is all he's known. It's not necessarily a good thing that we get people who stay in government. I do this because we the people, really, that's the government, but they stay in government for like their whole lives. And I don't know that that's a good thing at all. But that's his story. That's all he has known. And so I hope he has a good time. I hope he relaxes. I hope that he will be well. And I do want God to bless him. But like I said, it is interesting. People come into office and they never leave. And I'm not so sure that's what the founders had in mind, of course. But now he exits the White House, as you see scrolling across your screen, and we have President Trump who comes back in, and here we go. So tomorrow is not just the inauguration, of course, it's also Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So there's that as well, a national holiday. Once again, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm. And if you have not checked out the main channel or subscribed there at the Adrienne Ross Show, I'd appreciate if you do that. The link will be in the description of this video, and the link to my Substack will be in the description of this video. It is AdrienneRoss.substack.com. And as I said, there are different subscription options. So there are paid subscriptions, there are free subscriptions. Of course, I prefer the paid subscription, but like I said, there are options. So pick one. Okay. Again, get in the comments. Let me know what you think. Are you looking forward to it? Also, do you intend to watch the inauguration? I absolutely intend to do that. And I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.